In the first video, we created a simple database. We started looking at two tables, a student database, a student table, and a course table using the code you can see on this web page, and then we used simple SQL to look at the data. In this video, we're going to continue with this database, but in this video, we're going to join the two tables to make it a relational database. Again, you can use this website to get the code and also put the data in the table. Then we're going to look at more complex SQL queries. We can see here on the website the SQL can get data from multiple tables. So we'll show these select statements in SQL on our student database. You can follow along with all the instructions from this course, all of the code, all of the help on this website. We start off scrolling down to lesson 3. We're going to look at relating tables with a junction table. Now in our design, we join our existing two tables with this new table called registration. We can get the code, we can copy the code, and then we're going to look at our database. So we've already got our database, we can open it up and we're going to go to our SQL window. Now we can run our code, our create table, and we can create a junction table using SQL. Now we're going to look at the insert data. Now we've copied and pasted the heading that we don't need, so we're just going to delete that. So we've got our code, and now when we run it, we insert our data correctly. We want to have a look at our code using SQL. So we take out the SQL from our window and we're going to start. Let's have a look at the table first of all. Now, when we look at the data in our table, it doesn't really tell us much because at the moment it's just linking everything. So it just looks like all the IDs together in a table. So let's have a look at the student details. So here are the names of the students that are registered on some course. You could see there's many different names repeated. So if you want a list without duplicates, you can use the word distinct. So select distinct will give us unique name. Look at the where clause. We've used equals. And in the tables, we've used aliases. So we'll show you these as we go through the code. Here we're looking at courses. Again, there's duplicates in our list, so we use distinct. And then we get a list of courses that have been registered with students in them. You can see the use of the aliases to say which table our column comes from. Now, we've used one where clause. What happens if we want to use two? We can use the word and. So here we've got where and we've got and. And this is the SQL code and the output when we run it. You can see the select is the same. We've got the tables and we've used aliases. We've got where we've joined the tables by using student ID, and then we've got the student ID equals and the student ID that we're looking at. So this is the one single student we're looking at. We can use the aliases to tell SQL which table we mean. For example, the student ID, does it come from the student table or the registration table? Now we're looking at courses, so we can change our code, we can develop our code and change what we want to see. So here we're going to change our code from looking at the students to looking at the courses. So again, the course code is in the course table and the registration table. So we say they're the same, tell SQL they're the same, and then that joins the table. It joins the primary key and the foreign key. Now we want the course code to equal 888342. So we can check our code. And remember, we need to say where the column comes from. So course code is in two tables, so we have to say which table we mean. So we can see the output here. We can add columns if we want to see them. So we can add the course name and the course date, and then we can see the information in the output. You can always change your code to exactly what you want. So far, we've shown you how we can use SQL to link two tables. But really, in our student database, we want to link the students and the courses, and that involves three tables. So let's see the SQL when it gets a bit more complex. You can always copy and paste the code from the website and just see what happens. So let's see more complicated SQL. We're going to develop our code from the select statements and then make them link the three tables first of all. So we can use one where clause and as many ands as we like. So we can start off linking the junction table with the other two tables, the registration with the student and the course table. So we need to make sure we state we're using all three tables. We're going to use aliases, and we decide what we want to see. So all of the columns, the data that we want to see in the output. We can run this and you can see here, these are all the students on this course, 888342. So we've linked all three tables. We can still use order by because we want to see the data. Let's order it by the student ID. You can see here we tend to copy and paste the code to make sure we don't use a typo. Now sometimes you might want to order by more than just one column. So we've got student ID here. We've got the course. Now what happens if we want to look at more than one course? Well, let's run it and you can see we've now got all of the courses. Now the data's maybe not as easy to see, so we're going to have to order it by multiple columns. So we can add them to the order by clause and you can see the output. What happens when we run this SQL code? We can look at the output. We can just move the columns so it's easier to see. We can check our output data. We can either look at the data to understand that, or we can look at the data to think, oh, how is our SQL? Do we need to add anything? So perhaps we can look at the first courses, the courses in the first semester and then the second semester. We can do that by just adding their course date. Now more SQL we can look at. We're just going to copy and paste the code in. And you can see here we're using the three tables. We're using the same real code we've looked at before. Let's just make sure the code is correct. Okay, so here we've used the where and the and the order by, and we can see the students on the courses. Now if we look at our output, you can see we've got 19 rows. If we had a lot more, we want to be able to find that information out using SQL. How do we do that? Well, here we're using a count. Can you see we're counting how many rows? This is called an aggregate, SQL aggregate statement. Now, more complicated SQL, we can use group by and having. and we're going to use that count in this SQL. So why not just copy and paste the code in to see what happens. We've got the count, we've got group by and having, and you can see the students, the courses, and how many times the students are in courses. Again, we're going to use another example. So here we've got having count where the course code is greater than 0. So we're counting when students are registered on courses and at least one course. So we can see the list of students and the amount of courses. Now finally, one thing we haven't looked at yet is how we input, update or delete data. Well, we've looked at input and we did that when we created the tables. So first of all, let's create a new row, a new piece of data into course, and you can see here on the output that we've got the course date and it's a different format. It's not correct. So what can we do? We want to change it. We can use an update. So here the update SQL changes the course date to the format that we want. So if we run that, that will change. And then once we've changed our data, we're going to select all to check to see if it worked correctly. Always worth checking. So we select all from course and you can see now the format is correct. The other option that we could do if we didn't want that record is just delete it. So in this SQL statement, we're going to delete that record. So again, once we've actioned the SQL, what we want to do is we want to check our data to make sure that record has gone. So we again select all from course, we run the query, and now you can see the record that we didn't want has gone. Remember, anything you need to know, all of the code you've seen in this video, go to the website and it will help you with the instructions and the code. Good luck!